Hello all, my name is Jasmine Cruz and the topic that I will be discussing today is de-escalating extreme emotions and behaviors. First off, before I go into my topic, the reason why I chose to speak about de-escalating extreme emotions and behaviors is because it's something that I am faced with on a day-to-day. I also think that it's extremely important to understand some of the variables that lead to the behaviors that our children are displaying before we could even begin to de-escalate. What exactly is de-escalation? De-escalation is a measure that is taken to resolve conflict. Usually, these measures can be taken by a counselor to help the individual reach a resolution without using aggressive or violent means. The job of the counselor is to identify the crisis, manage the client's needs, and then put forth strategies that will solve the client's concerns. Have you ever had to deal with some sort of chaos, whether in the classroom, outside the classroom, maybe in the hallway, or somewhere along your daily routine? Because I have, and I'm sure many of us have at some point. The question is, do you really wonder why or where this aggressive behavior is coming from? Or do you just think that the student is unruly? Do you think that the student is spoiled or just completely plain out of control? According to the National Center for Education Evaluation and Regional Assistance, children who are acting out and using these behaviors are simply just struggling to express their needs at that moment in time. These students are also seeking attention, and often the negative attention is way easier than the positive attention. This image you see here is probably not a typical classroom setting. However, according to the National Center for Educational Statistics, 40.7% of school teachers deal with this on a day-to-day, making it almost impossible to teach their lesson due to the disruptive behavior. So, how should the teacher deal with the non-compliant student? Should she just create a power struggle, trying to take control of the class and display as if she's the boss? Or should she just have the student removed to deal with another school personnel? Well, whether you're dealing with a student inside the classroom or outside the classroom, the key is to respond to the student in a calm manner. Understanding that the student is already in an agitated state of mind, we have to be sure that our approach to the student is in a tone where he or she does not feel like they are being attacked. Children may have these outbursts and behaviors from time to time, and as school professionals, we should be prepared when faced with them. Most importantly, there are some developmental factors that we should always consider before trying to de-escalate. Before we can begin to de-escalate, we have to take into consideration some developmental concerns. For instance, we have to consider the social emotional difficulties a child might be facing at the house. Some children come from homes and families that are dealing with difficulties, such as divorce, poverty, and even depressed parents. Some of these factors may be contributing to the aggressive behavior. First, let's talk about divorce. Divorce is an issue that many children find difficult to deal with. Divorce means some sort of separation, which can bring fear to a child. Not being able to see one of their parents can be confusing and heartbreaking, causing a disruption in their life. The child might even start to begin to feel alone. If the divorce is not civilized, then the child might even be exposed to either some sort of verbal or physical abuse. Divorce puts children in a difficult position, and often the child displays these behaviors outside of the home because of fear. Then we have to talk about and think about the depressed parents. When parents are depressed, it makes it almost impossible to bond with their children. Therefore, some of the child's needs are probably not being met. Children often seek attention, and if they are not receiving it at home, chances are they are going to seek it elsewhere. Lastly, we must consider poverty. Poverty can mean that the child does not have enough food, clothes, and that they may have even been displaced from their house. They are dealing with some sort of inconvenience or even violence, all in which can contribute to the child's state of mind and well-being, leading to their behaviors. The socio-emotional difficulties I just mentioned can all bring hardship to a child, making it tough for a student to deal with, ultimately, once again, leading to their behavior. How do you expect a child to be attentive if he or she is hungry? More often, how do you even expect a child to deal with making friends if he or she does not even have the proper clothing that other students have and they are constantly being teased? Unfortunately, all of these factors play a role in the physical, emotional, and social state of mind of a child. Keeping in mind the child that is acting out at school, let me direct you to two multicultural aspects of the behavior issue. The socioeconomic status of a child can affect the behaviors in school. The American Psychological Association has indicated that low socioeconomic status in children result in a disruption in their learning and what is considered appropriate behavior. Children that are in these low socioeconomic communities often experience a lack of resources that impact their attainment of educational goals, which often leads to their emotional distress. Parents may often not have the monetary means to buy the books or the supplies that their child needs in order to succeed. And as a result, these students are more than likely to display learning difficulties in the classroom that may lead to behavior problems, such as inattentiveness, lack of interest in subjects, and being uncooperative in school matters. Next is the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered community. The National Association of School Psychologists reported that lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender students feel unsafe in school and usually prioritize survival over their education. These students are especially vulnerable as they move on to middle and high school settings. The LGBT community are burdened by social isolation from their peers and are usually fearful. Faced with these difficulties, the LGBT community are more likely to be absent from school and ultimately drop out as a result. Unfortunately, these extreme emotions lead to the LGBT community to engage in high-risk behaviors and sometimes even suicidal thoughts. Now that we have considered some of the factors that may have contributed to the student's aggressive behavior, what is the role of a school counselor? How can we help to de-escalate the emotions and behaviors a student may be displaying? When dealing with students at an elementary or secondary school level, it is important to de-escalate these extreme emotions and behaviors no matter the age of the client. As a counselor, my first approach in the process of de-escalation is to try to identify the needs that are not being met. It is extremely necessary to also have built trusting relationships with the students. Creating a safe environment will allow your student to feel comfortable enough to express his or her distress. During the de-escalation process, it is also important to be mindful of nonverbal cues. Students that are in an agitated state usually are not receptive to the things that are being said to them at that particular moment. So we have to be very careful on how we are approaching the situation. We also have to respect the personal space of a student that is exhibiting these extreme behaviors. The student should not feel like you are trying to trap them. This is where the nonverbal cues, such as body language, comes into play. The student should see that you are calm and that you are there to listen to them. Whether the student's behavior is right or wrong, he or she has to know that you are not there to judge them. Instead, you are there to focus on their feelings. This is the moment where you observe the student carefully. You want to be able to watch and listen carefully to what the student is saying, because this is what will allow you to understand what the student is feeling. Once you have allowed the student to express their feelings, this is your chance. This is when you can begin your intervention. Use simple language so that the student is clear of the message that you are trying to convey. When students are upset, it may take them a minute to process what it is that you are trying to say. So it is necessary to be patient. Once you feel that the student has reached a calm state and that you have built the rapport needed to grab his or her attention, Establish some points that you both can agree on. According to the ethical standards for school counselors, the role of a school counselor is to protect and provide the student with the support that is needed. Reminding the student of your role can help you and the student reach a common ground. Reassure the student that you are there to help them overcome some of the issues that they might be having. And remember that as the student's advocate, it is necessary to consider all of the factors such as socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, and other factors when providing them with support and understanding. Lastly, collaborate with a team within the school as well as the student's caregivers in order to set forth an effective intervention plan. The truth is, we cannot control the behaviors of others, but what we can control is how we respond to them. And how we respond will determine whether the extreme behavior will escalate or de-escalate. So before we react to the student that is being unruly or out of control, be patient, listen, consider the factors involved, and then implement the strategies that will suit the child's needs.